It's not the first time Russia's Navy has sailed to Havana. At this tense moment between Moscow and the West, Russian warships and a nuclear submarine on America's doorstep send an unmistakable message.
The visiting Russian warships to Cuba are Vladimir Putin's way of reminding President Biden that Moscow can challenge Washington in its own sphere of influence, too.
The ships arrived after days of high-precision missile training in the Atlantic. Russia's defense ministry says the vessels are not carrying nuclear weapons, but are loaded with hypersonic missiles. All of it coincides with a visit by Cuba's foreign minister to Moscow.
We will see how this unfolds in the coming days, but we have seen this kind of thing before, and we expect to see this kind of thing again.
The U.S. insists the Russian visit to Cuba is routine and does not represent an escalation.
It's an explicit threat to the peace and security of all the Americas.
A far cry from the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, which entrenched fears of a Soviet attack launched from the island. These days, Cuba is more interested in an economic lifeline and is even trying to woo Russian tourists.
Russia is the only country that has been willing to provide significant help, just as it did during the Soviet era.
Russia isn't the only country looking to win hearts in Havana. The Royal Canadian Navy announced one of its newest patrol vessels, HMCS Margaret Brooke, will visit this weekend in recognition of the long-standing bilateral relationship between Canada and Cuba. A sign this tiny nation still plays a major role at a time of global instability. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.